So, have you ever heard yourself say, "This is just who I am," or "That's just the way I am"? I'm going to challenge you to look at that statement and that belief here today. Because when we get ourselves caught in a pigeonhole of who we think we are, we eliminate the opportunity of who else we might want to become. So, in my life, there was a period in my life when as I shared in a recent video, went through some pretty challenging addictions. Okay. And when I came out of that experience, I had gone through things like the 12 steps, and I had done a few different ways of trying to break free of that experience. Um, when I left that experience, I didn't walk away saying that I was an addict. Because if I said that I was an addict, that would mean that I was always going to be an addict. And that's not how I saw myself. I decided to say that I had addictive tendencies, right? Which even today feels different because now I know why I even chose those experiences in the first place. And it had nothing to do with the addiction. It had to do with what I was looking for on the other side of the addiction, which was connection. Okay. So when we get ourselves caught in this is who I am or that's just the way I am, we really limit ourselves as to who we can become. Okay. So recently I cut my hair, from the same old long, straight blonde hair that I had when I graduated high school, that it grew back to in my late 20s, that it came back to again in my late 30s, and for a long time I just felt like this is just who I am. I just always have long, blonde, straight hair, But as I cut it this last time, it's connecting me with other aspects of myself that maybe I had, stuffed away or hadn't really given much airtime to in recent years because I kind of fell back into the same old program. And, very serious program, less playful program, perhaps. And so when I allowed myself to drop the this is who I am, it's inviting me to find out who else I am. And so I want to invite you to be curious about that for yourself as well. When in your life do you find yourself, feeling insecure and forgetting your confidence? When do you find yourself, feeling stuck instead of remembering that you're resourceful? And so we have these patterns of keeping ourselves safe in what we know and not always feeling comfortable to step into the unknown. Okay. But it's in the unknown, it's in the curiosity that we actually find ourselves with more opportunity to expand and evolve. Okay. Because as I said to a client the other day, if you were to just stay where you are, would you be happy in a year? you know? And she's like, no, right? So we have to break ourselves out of the pattern and the identity of who we are so that we can open up to who else am I? Okay. So this is really an opportunity for you to drop into your own curiosity of where am I getting caught in an old story of who I think I am? Where am I seeing that narrative of the old language, this is happening to me, or, why does that always have to be that way? Or why does everybody else seem to have it all together? Right? We have all had things that we have overcome. We have all had ways that we have already grown, even. And when we allow ourselves or forget and get caught back in that old narrative, it can take time to pick ourselves back up out of it. But if we can be intentional and aware and even creating that new story, then we really have the opportunity to figure out where it is that we want to be going and who we want to be on that path. And then we get to anchor ourselves into a new reality and a new possibility and see where life can take us from there. So I hope you'll get a little curious about yourself and look at, where am I getting myself caught in a certain narrative or identity or story? And where can I start to notice like how has that already changed? Or how do I want to change it so that that's not who I am going forward? If I can break myself out of that old identity, then who do I become? How do I get to show up in the world? Okay. Because you have that power. You can do that. You can shift your own narrative, and you can change the way you feel as you step out into the world, and the world will naturally change with you. Okay, so sending you lots of love as you contemplate this, as you take this in. If you have any comments, please share below. I would love to hear from you how this is resonating and what it maybe sparks in you. What's that narrative that you can maybe identify today so that you can break free tomorrow? Okay. So yeah, take care. Please subscribe, like, and I hope to see you here again very soon. So sending you lots of love. Have a beautiful day.